Hello everyone! Want to create simple games in Python without packages like PyGame or Turtle? In this series, we'll create a 2D text platformer including player movement and adding obstacles. Okay, so in this first part, I'll teach you how to create a matrix and add a player. P stands for player, a dot is an empty field, and hash is a wall. But in this part, I'll just teach you how to create an empty field. Now I'll just copy this there so you can always see it. And you can ignore this for now, we'll use that later. It's also a comment. Now you probably know how to create a variable. It's very simple. And also how to print it. What this just does is it prints a dot. But you can also multiply it by, let's say, 15. And then you get one string with 15 dots. But strings are immutable, so you can't change the values or change each dot individually easily. So that's why we're going to use lists. And one easy way to do it is this. So basically you're just telling to take this list which has one element and multiplying it by 15. So you're telling to create one list with 15 of these elements. So you get this here. Now to get a clean output like this, there's one trick. Right, like this. And now when I run it, you get this clean output. So what did I just do now? Here you specify a string list. It can't be an int list or a mixed thing. It has to be just a string list, which is row. And here you can tell what should be used to put between each of the elements. In this case, I'm using a space, but you can of course also leave it blank or use anything else. Okay, so now we need to make this 2D. And there are multiple ways to do it, but only some of them work properly. But before that, I'll show you one more thing, which is how to print it. Okay, so now I have a 2D list over here. You can see it's 2D because here is one list, and that list consists of multiple smaller lists. So it's a 2D list. Now if I just say print matrix, then it will just print that entire thing in one line. So I can say for I in matrix, print I. And then you get a 2D list output, but you can see it's still not very clean. So we'll use the same trick as before, which is this. And this time we use an I, of course. And now it's proper. And since this thing we are later going to use it very often, I like to convert this into a function called as print 2D. Okay, so next time we want this to be run, we just say print 2D and it runs it. Now I have put the same code in here so that function. And here is one wrong way. Here, let me just remove this. This doesn't work because here 5 times 3 is 15 and 15 times this thing just gives you one list with 15 elements. That's not 2D. And if you see what was there before, which is this, then I'll show you what happens. You do get a 2D list. And why is that? Because this thing, which creates one list with 5 elements, we are putting that inside another list. And we're telling that outer list to be multiplied by 3. So you get one list with 3 of these inner elements. Okay, so that works. But it doesn't actually work the way you expect, because when I try editing just a single value here, and I'm setting it to P, it doesn't change just a single value, it changes multiple values. Why is that? It's because of how Python stores lists. But here it's not clear to explain, so I'll explain it over here, but it's basically the same thing. Okay, so here we have a row, and here matrix is empty, and with the for loop I'm appending row to matrix every time. And now when I run this code, you again see the same error. Why is it? When you tell matrix to append row, it is adding the location of row, not the elements of row. So that's why when you edit a value, let's say here, that time you're editing this row, which affects all the other rows. That's why you get that wrong output. One solution is, it's the same code. Here, instead of adding row, you add a copy of the row. So this time it doesn't add the location of row, it adds a copy of it. Another option would be this, which does almost the same thing. Here row is outside the for loop, but if you put that inside the for loop, every iteration row is created newly. So that means row has a new location every time, and every time it's appended to matrix, it again gets a new location. Let me show it works. Yes, it works. There is a slightly better way. It's not better in efficiency, but in the number of lines. Okay, so I'll show it here. Here row is used just once. So you can just copy this, replace that row in there, and delete this line. So you already saved one line. And if you know what list comprehensions are, you can shorten this into one single line of code. I have explained list comprehensions in another video, the link is in the description. You just put that there, take this and put that there. I'll shorten it. So basically what this is doing is, it is creating a list with 5 elements, and each of those elements is this, which is another list with 5 more elements. Okay, let's check if it works. Yes. Now I'll just copy this and I'll delete this, add it down, and here I will change the values from 5 to 10, and here I'll make it 15. Okay, now run, and it works. And I'll also show you that you can edit these values as you want. So now P is somewhere else. Okay, now we are almost done. There's one more thing I'll show, that is how to write clean code. Of course, when you write code, you would write clean code from the beginning, but I didn't this time to explain it to you. I will now create 2 variables called as length and width, and set length to 15 and width to 10, and later, or now, change this 15 to length and 10 to width. Why? That's because, let's say some other person comes and looks at your code, or you look at your code after a very long time, then you won't understand what that 15 and 10 was for. So it's always better to give those constants some names and use it in your code. And in case you did not know what this does, this is just assigning 15 to length and 10 to width, and instead of doing it on 2 separate lines, I put it in one line. And one more last thing, which is also part of writing clean code, would be renaming this instead of I to row, so you can also understand it, and this I also to row, I call it as row, But many people also put an underscore because this variable is not used anywhere. But I prefer row. Okay, it does the same. Let's check if the code still works. Yes. In the next episode, I'll teach you how to add player movement. Thanks for watching. Bye.